Hey cats, it's Ed, pebax here. Actually, with my tired legs, I'm probably more old-fashioned EVA bud. I'm going to have a delve around the ever-changing running shoe landscape today. Checking out some soon-to-be-released shoes, or ones that are kind of on the horizon, that are blurry right now, but we're still excited about. I've got a more nimble pebax-based model for you, some fresh news on a long-standing race shoe, and a couple of winterized beasts as well. It's yay or nay time, let's get to it. Thanks for joining me on the channel, people. It is always appreciated. Thanks to all the members as well that have been supporting the channel over the last year or so. It really does help to keep the shoe supply sufficient, I suppose. You can help the channel out on a more ad hoc basis by giving us a super thanks down below. Every little helps. It's time for an episode of Running Shoe Yay or Nay today. This is where I look at some future, perhaps soon to be released running shoes and let you know whether I'm going to be picking them up or not for review on the channel. It could be that I think another shoe tuber might do this some more justice. There may be one or two particular models that I think will fit really well into my current running shoe rotation. After a couple of illnesses this year, I finally feel like I've got back to some sort of consistency in my training. Feel like the engine's purring away quite nicely now. Shoe number one. First shoe up is a brand that I've not tried before, 361 Degrees. The shoe in question in the yay or nay today is the Spire 5. Kind of like the name, it inspires... Oh, that's a really bad joke. Do like the name, it kind of makes me think about the spires you would find in a old town in the UK or something. You're wandering along, there's a bakery, perhaps some cobblestones. The previous versions of the shoe have used a mixture of the brand's Quick Spring Plus foam, though I'm reliably informed this time that the new version is going to feature a pebax section to that midsole. I think it's going to be like on the bottom section of the midsole unit. Certainly a welcome addition, which somewhat elevates this shoe potentially into that sort of endorphin speed type zone maybe. This of course could make the Spire 5 something usable perhaps for some long runs as well. We all know the forgiving properties of that pebax based foam. Looks like a more daily option by all accounts, and the brand have their flame model for racing and higher pace speed work. I think the Spire 5 looks more like a premium sort of shoe model, certainly a little bit more plush than some of the others, elevates it perhaps a little bit above like a Pegasus or something. I am really pleased to see some use of modern midsole foams here, kind of leaving behind some of that EVA stuff. I think that's been done and dusted. It does have its place, but I think for running, certainly some of those lighter foams are really beneficial. A cool combination of foams here, like the Adios 7 or the Puma Deviate Nitro 2 for example, though this shoe doesn't feature a carbon plate, so it could make it a little bit more usable on a daily basis. Sometimes those carbon plate shoes are not what the old legs need right now. I just want something that gives a little bit, got a little bit more flexibility to that midsole. I think it could make the Spire 5 something of a Ian Botham model. By that I mean the Yeovil legend that could bat, bowl and field. Could be a little less rigid and work for some more easier sessions, yet provide some responsiveness from the quick spring section that's on top of that more springy pebax based part. Think of it as the crispy bacon bits on top of a more luxurious cheese sauce. An ortholite insole and some high abrasion rubber on the outsole could make for a superb shoe. One I'm keen to test out, and I think it probably fits into my shoe rotation quite well. As such, it's a yay for the Spire 5 from 361 Degrees. Kind of cool to test out a new brand as well. I've never tested anything from them before, so very excited. Shoe 2. Now, I'm speculating a little bit on this one. Been a while since I reviewed a Hoka shoe, the Hoka Rocket X2. Now, the Rocket X is probably the best shoe Hoka have done in a long time. I really enjoyed that one. I didn't really get on with the Mach 4, and the Rincon 3 was okay, but it was merely just a facsimile of the last two iterations of the shoe. The Rocket X had a low weight, a carbon plate, and a really nice price. I was a bit perturbed that people didn't pick up on that one, more people didn't use it. You can pick up some pairs of that for really nice prices right now. It does though seem like Hoka are set to update the Rocket X model, this time with a pebax based midsole. Photos and footage of the shoe have been knocking around for quite some time now, though it does seem odd that it's taken this long for the shoe to land anywhere. Maybe some production issues and problems related to the economic crisis around the world right now. I've noticed that certain running shoe brands are shifting their production to different countries and different regions. Maybe Hoka have been carefully tinkering with the Rocket X2 design to make sure it's really spot on. One thing I do know is that many people will be keen to try out this shoe on release after their positive experiences in the Rocket X original. Now it does look like a huge stack of midsole underfoot here in this new version of the shoe. You can see the classic pebax like creasing on the midsole here on both sections. Is it all pebax? It does appear to be two slabs with the carbon plate sandwiched between, like a salty slice of bacon encompassed by two pieces of white bread. I think the upper though, strangely, is a part of the shoe that's the most fun to discuss. There's lots of elements of other super shoes here within the upper of the Rocket X2. The mesh looks like it's lifted straight off the Vaporfly Next Percent original. That Vaporweave stuff looks very similar. The eyelet reinforcement again, similar to that Nike shoe. The heel area is close to models like the Adios Pro and also the Streakfly. You got that heel flare sort of arcing away from the Achilles. The rear of the shoe looks rather flexible. We have those familiar padded zones around the heel. It's kind of like a best of the super shoes of the last couple of years, really. On the medial side of the shoe, the profile is actually more akin to the Metaspeed Sky Plus from Asics. And there's quite the sidewall there on the medial side, so perhaps it's not quite as high stacked as we first thought. Might be a little bit more conservative than our initial impressions. I'm a big Rocket X fan, so I'm very keen to test this one out when it does release, if ever. Although, to be honest, it looks like a completely different shoe from the first one. There's not a lot that's been carried over from the Rocket X original to this second iteration, but I'm still keen to try it. No idea when this might be released, but it's a yay for the Rocket X2 from Hoka. Up next, it's the Nike Air Windflow 9 Shield. A winter warrior by all accounts with a very padded upper, which I think perhaps is more focused on cold and wet weather rather than the other shield offering from the swoosh. The Pegasus 39 shield just looked more like a wet weather type shoe. I think the Windflow's got a slightly thicker upper here, which could be ideal if you're running in a much colder climate. Again, we have that water repellent finish on the upper that might help to keep your feet a little bit drier. I think it's more like an attempt to stop your feet from getting wet. It just happens really. If you're going to be out there running around in standing water, your feet will get wet. They only go so far as to keeping the water out, sort of a bit of a preventative measure. Sadly, the water repellent finish does make these shoes a touch warmer, which is great, I suppose, for the cold times, but not so good when you're actually running outside of those winter conditions. In the UK, we get a few cold days, maybe a couple of weeks where it's a bit colder, but actually, to be honest, it's quite a mild climate here. As such, this one might be a better shoe to recommend to people if you're perhaps living in those sort of conditions for a much greater or more sustained period. I just don't see the shield shoes from Nike being all that great in terms of value. Might use them for like a couple of months in the year, but you can just get away with it. Just suck it up, you know, put some thicker socks on, get out there and just get the running done, you know. Is it really that cold? Not here. The storm tread that you get on the outsole of these Nike Shield shoes is actually pretty good. It does work a little better than some of their more conventional kind of designs. I think that's the more important selling point really when you look at these winterized shoes. Better grip is certainly a bit of a boon in the UK. You tend to be running in sort of leafy, sludgy conditions. Those wet leaves and the dirty ground are the nemesis of all runners in the UK over the winter. At just under 100 Earth credits here in the UK, the Windflow 9 Shield's not a bad price really. I think if you want that more old school Cushlon based midsole, then it's probably right up your street, but it's only going to be a few months before it just gets a bit milder anyway. Just put your trail shoes on if you really have to go out there in some really bad conditions. As such, for me, it's a nay for the Nike Air Windflow 9 Shield. Shoe 4. Last up, a shoe I need to cover due to the large number of requests from the viewers. The Fresh Foam X More 4 from New Balance seems to gather lots of interest from you all. A max cushion shoe with a huge slab of that Fresh Foam X. or fresh foam, or whatever it is. I really assume this one is for easy efforts and recovery runs. New Balance mentioned in the shoes info section that this is the largest stack of fresh foam used within any of their shoes. They say it's about 34mm in stack height. It doesn't really seem that much, does it? Though I guess you have to remember this is for the sample size. For my UK size 11, it's probably going to be getting on for 38 or 39mm. We have a 4mm drop from heel to toe. Obviously, due to the increase in stack and width in the forefoot, the shoe has gained a little extra weight from the last version. Though I think if it's cushion that you're after and a more stable, consistent cushion, rather than something like Lightstrike Pro or Zoom X or something, then maybe the More 4 could be the way to go. If you perhaps found the Invincible, I suppose, just too squashy and inconsistent, or the Prime X just like some sort of wobbly skyscraper, then the New Balance option could be the one for you. I guess the odd one here is the SC Trainer comparison, which I suppose is the squashier counterpart to this shoe. If your ankles don't get on with that one, then go for the More 4. At around 140 Earth credits, it's certainly a cheaper option than the SC Trainer from New Balance, and I can see why certain runners and viewers will gravitate to this one. I think if I can grab a discount and get this one down to around 100 Earth credits, I might consider it. I haven't really got on that well with Fresh Foam X in the past. It just feels a bit like a energy sponge rather than something that gives back anything. That might be great, I suppose, if you're running some slower miles, but I got a load of shoes at the moment that I can do that with. Something like the Summitros 2, for example. That one's got that category pretty much covered. A slower pace shoe by all accounts for the easier days. Ones that I find I need that little bit more often as the year variable increases. I forgot how old I was the other day. That's how old I am. You start to forget after a little while. So it's a tentative yay on the New Balance Fresh Foam X More 4. That's all 4 shoes for today. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on these down in the comments. Musical interlude time. With winter finally here and me able to get the Under Armour gloves out again, I think I can safely put on some music from Aztec Camera. They always, for some reason, remind me of colder winter weather, and the album Highland Hard Rain has got loads of tracks like that on it. Walk Out to Winter's a fantastic one. It's got sort of icy sounding guitars. They sound like sort of dripping icicles, I suppose. Some really fantastic songs here, beautiful chord changes and progressions, and a sprightly vocal from Roddy Frame. The beautiful We Could Send Letters is probably the standout track from the album. There's a fantastic guitar solo in that later in the track. It does remind me perhaps of my uni days of sending letters to loved ones and things. I like the raucous Lost Outside the Tunnel. There's some really good fast acoustic guitar strumming on there that I enjoy. And I really like the more folky acoustic Down the Dip. Had lots of fun listening to that one in the past, actually going down a part in Yeovil called Milford Dip, which is a real tester. It's easy going down, not so easy going up. Go and check this one out if you've never heard the guitar playing of Roddy Frame before. The guy's an absolutely fantastic guitar player, one of the best, he really is. His first album, Walk Out to Winter from 1983, Aztec Camera. Thanks for tuning in, people. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you want to help out the channel, please hit that subscribe button and click the bell below for notifications. Give this video a thumbs up like and share it with your running buddies. My name's EDDBUD, and I'll be seeing you. And look what just arrived. It's the Spire 5 from 361 Degrees. Very interesting construction here. Full review coming up very soon.